Hey everyone, thank you for coming back to our channel. In this episode, I'm going to be covering a 1984 cold case about a 13-year-old boy who was savagely murdered in the quiet town of Glenville, Connecticut. Don't forget to comment in the comment section below, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Born on January 24th, 1971, in Pemberwick, Connecticut, to Mary Ann Miazga and Paul Margolies, Matthew Margolies was a loving, quiet, respectful, well-mannered, and fun child. He lived in a modest blue-collared neighborhood in Glenville, known back in the day as Happy Valley. By many accounts, Matthew was your modern-day Huck Finn growing up in the late 70s and early 80s. He loved being outdoors, riding his bike, and most of all, he loved fishing on the Byram River. Matthew was also known to be a latchkey kid, but made the most of it. The year 1984 was a rough year for Matthew. His parents divorced the year prior, and his father recently moved away to Texas. Matthew's grandfather, George, who he called Dad, was very ill. Prior to becoming ill, George was a fishing guru and taught Matthew many things a man would normally teach his son. The pair nearly spent every day by the river fishing together and talked about things a dad would talk to his son about. It was Matthew's dream to be a firefighter, like his grandpa when he grew up. It was noted he helped carry the Glenville Fire Department's banner during the Memorial Day parade that same year. Sadly, on Friday, August 17th, George passed away. He left his fishing rod to Matthew. As to be expected, Matthew was distraught, but became determined to look after his family, especially his grandma Stella, who was now a widow. Thursday, August 30th, Matthew and his sister had spent the night at his grandma's house and awoke that Friday morning. With summer coming to an end, after the Labor Day holiday weekend, Matthew grabbed his fishing rod, tackle box, and left his grandma's house on Morgan Street towards Comely Avenue and Pemberwick Road towards the river. This is where Matthew was last seen alive. Around 5 p.m. that evening, Mary Ann drove to her mother's house to pick up the kids for dinner, but no one was home. Stella had taken Matthew's sister to an appointment earlier in the day, and when they arrived home around 7 p.m., Mary Ann realized Matthew was not with them. Fear overcame her, and she knew something wasn't right. She phoned the police, and an officer and some local neighbors began a search near the area, but with nightfall approaching, they agreed to call off the search and continue it the next day if Matthew didn't come home. Saturday morning, more law enforcement, volunteer firefighters, and concerned citizens kept searching for him but were unsuccessful. By Sunday, the FBI was notified, and Mary Ann was pleading with the public for help. State troopers conducted further searches in the woods with search dogs. Mary Ann brought Freckles, Matthew's beloved dog, with her on the search. Scuba divers combed the river, helicopters flew overhead, and flyers were being plastered all around town. Sadly, there were still no signs of Matthew. By Monday, Mary Ann and her boyfriend Jim, now husband, decided to search on their own near Pemberwick and Hawthorne Street. Mary Ann remembered days before Matthew went missing, he had asked her what was up there and was really curious about that area. During that conversation, she asked Matthew if anyone had asked him to go up there, and he stated no. After explaining to him if he wanted to go up there, she'd go with him, he dropped the conversation. When Jim and Mary Ann approached the dead end of Hawthorne Street, they noticed a very foul odor. They notified police immediately, but the police said the odor was more than likely decayed fish or a dead animal. On Wednesday, September 4th, a local volunteer firefighter decided to look for Matthew himself after hearing about the smell. He headed down the hill from behind Hawthorne Street and Greenway Drive. He followed the makeshift path and quickly discovered a black and white checkered shoe which matched exactly to the type of shoes Matthew was last seen in. The volunteer notified police and a major search began. Around 4 p.m., 2 officers and the volunteer were combing through the rocky wooded area when the volunteer leaned against a tree just for a moment. He noticed something out of the corner of his eye. He realized it was a small human foot sticking out of the ground as well as an ear. A veil of heartache and shock overcame him, but he was able to scream, "He's over here." There, in the shallow grave, was the body of Matthew Margolies. The autopsy revealed he had been deceased for a matter of days. He had multiple stab wounds on his torso and hands. Matthew died fighting for his life. It was noted he died from stab wounds and traumatic asphyxiation. His mouth and throat had been jammed with dirt and sticks while he was still alive because dirt was found in his lungs. The report also stated there were no signs of a sexual assault, even though Matt was found in his underwear and shirt. His athletic shorts and shoes were close by. His beloved fishing rod was also missing. Days later, the knife believed to be the murder weapon was found. 1 week after discovery of Matthew, the police department released a statement saying they had located his fishing rod. It turns out a supposed friend of Matthew's bought it off of him for $2 the day Matthew was murdered. Mary Ann stated Matthew would have never sold that fishing rod because it was given to him by his grandfather. There were many suspects questioned and looked into on Matthew's case, but most were either cleared or showed no motive. The two possible people that stood out the most to me were actually close friends and teenagers who lived in the local area. The first person was known in the town as a troublemaker and a bully. A witness explained this possible suspect threatened their son with a knife, similar to the one believed to have killed Matthew. Another person came forward in the last few years on YouTube about his own experience and horrific attack by the same person. It was found through research this person lived on the street right behind where Matthew was found. Also, they were facing a sexual abuse and assault case against them involving a female in a wooded area in 1986. The second person also had criminal history and didn't live very far from Matthew. It turns out this possible second person was friends with Matthew and went fishing with him at times. Unfortunately, even with this information, to this day, Matthew's case still remains cold. This August 31st, 2019 will mark 35 years since 13-year-old Matthew Margolies was selfishly taken too quickly from this earth. If you have any information or tips, no matter how small they are, please call either 1-866-623-8058 or 203-622-3333.